Hello and welcome to my first action figure review. I've been collecting toys for a long time, and this is something I have always wanted to do. We are going to look at the usual stuff like articulation, accessories, how he scales up with other figures. We are also going to look at a much older version of this figure and see how they compare. And we're going to do some kit bashing in this video. So what you're looking at here is an action figure of Gut. Of course it's an action figure. So this is the SH Figuarts take on the Golden Age version of Guts from Berserk. Berserk is a dark fantasy manga written and illustrated by Kentaro Miura, and my favorite thing ever. This version of Guts is from when he was serving a mercenary army called the Band of the Hawk. So one of my favorite details about Guts' character design is that he was raised by mercenaries that made him work for his food basically as soon as he could walk, and that included putting a sword in his hand. And they never actually gave him a sword that was, child-sized, so he just kind of got used to using swords that were too big for him, and that just carried over as he grew up. So that is why he always uses an oversized sword. It's just what he knows. It's such a fun detail because Guts is kind of the original spiky-haired, angry, big sword guy, and he's the only one, as far as I know, where his ability to wield a giant sword is actually kind of explained and a really important part of his character. So let's talk about how it feels to actually play with this toy. Like all SH Figuarts, the joints are very smooth. It feels very premium. I like that he can cross his arms. Not a lot of figures can do that. He's got an excellent wired cape here. And yeah, he's got a really nice finish on him. He just feels really, really nice to pose. What was I saying? Yeah, the joints are really smooth. This one's a little sticky. But, that is the sword arm, so I can forgive that. Really, really nice shoulder articulation, which is important because we get a big sword here. So let's get that into his hands. Pop these off. And let's get some gripping hands on there. Let's pop that in there. So the idea of this section is basically, like I said, just how does it feel to play with the toy? Let's do some part swaps. Let's get him into a pose. So, got our gripping hands on. Take the sword, pop off this pommel. This isn't my favorite way for figures to handle this, having to like pop off the pommel of the sword and kind of carefully slide it in there. But what I will say is that it does make it so that the character can really, really hold the sword. And what's great about this figure in particular, because of this awesome arm articulation, is when you've got both hands on the sword, you can still very easily pose both arms. So look at that. We're starting to get into a cool pose here. Let's just run with this. So let's kind of flay the cape out a little bit. Did I say that was a wired cape? I probably did. Anyway, let's kind of get into a nice wide stance here. Kind of rotate a bit. Yeah, get the cape like kind of hiding his mouth. Get that sword wound up. I mean, come on, look at that. That is awesome. Oh, can't forget the pommel. Got to balance that weight. So yeah, I really, really like this figure. He feels excellent. So, come on, man. So, as far as handling goes, I would say thumbs up. So to me, value is number of accessories, paint apps, things like that that really give you a sense of like, yeah, I get my money's worth. So let's take a look here. Let's look at some hands. We've got some fists for punching Griffith in the face. Got some nice relaxed hands. And we've got good old gesturing hands. We also have some additional faces. We've got this kind of cocky smirk. We got this excellent angry one. Look at that. Awesome. We also have a helmeted head. So this has a ball socket on it, so you can swap out the head. And within this head, you can tilt the visor up. And we got two faces for it. We get a nice stoic one here. And we also have a gritting teeth one. Very nice. Now this helmet's pretty cool. It does kind of catch on his nose a bit. It's hard to show, but you kind of have to pull forward a little bit, then get it down to really line up his eyes. Seems like it's a little misaligned, like maybe it should be a little lower, but as long as you tilt it, you kind of get what you're looking for. Now, let's take a look at the figure again and talk about paint. So, as we saw with all the faces, Jesus, am I even on camera? There we go. So as we saw with the faces, those all look fantastic. Just really, really nice. I'm not sure where this eye color came from, but I do really like it. But I don't remember it from any like colored manga artwork or even any of the anime or the movies. All the accessories look really nice as we saw, including the sword. Looks fantastic. Just really great paint apps overall, at least above the waist. So you can see here, even like on his this like chest belt, we have the nicely painted buckles and everything. But then when we get below the belt, it's like they just kind of stopped. So you could tell that this crotch piece should have like some metal rings here. And these should definitely have their buckles painted. And on the boots here, there's a bunch of buckles that are also not painted. And this figure ain't cheap, so that's kind of a bummer. Oh, I forgot to mention, he's also got this sweet curved dagger. This is something that Guts carries with him throughout pretty much the entire manga, and this is the first Guts figure to actually have it be a separate piece, which is really nice. So if you have any other 112 Guts figures, you've got a curved dagger to work with. And as far as how it is sheathed on him, the way they did it is that you just have this separate piece that you can pop out whenever he is holding the knife. I also wanted to give a special mention to this cape because I didn't talk about it too much earlier. I really, really like the way it sits on him. As long as you are willing to be patient and really work with it, you can get it looking exactly the way you would expect to. It sits nicely. You kind of drape it over one shoulder, and it even though it's being pushed up by the sword, that is what you would expect. I've seen some Guts figures where they just stick a hole in the cape, which doesn't make any sense. He's got to reach back there and grab it, so the cape's got to get out of the way. And the cape is really easy to pose. It's got a wire running through the middle and all around it. So you can pretty much just get it into whatever pose you need. So as far as value goes, pretty good. Pretty good. I do wish there was a stand, and I wish those buckles were painted. I'm going to be doing that myself to complete the paint job, so it doesn't bother me that much. Let's move on. Oh no. Oh no. Let's see how Guts sizes up to a bunch of other action figures that I think he looks good with. So let's start with Casca and Griffith, also from the Golden Age arc. These are Figmas. The Griffith Figma is borrowing the cape from the SH Figuarts of Griffith that we'll see in a sec. Next, we have two more SH Figuarts Berserk figures. We have a much later version of Griffith on the left, rocking a Forge Knight cape, and Nosferatu Zod. Speaking of Zod, you can almost have him hold Zod's sword using the gesturing hands. It doesn't stay great, but you can balance it and then do a cool photo. And some more Berserk SH Figuarts. We have Shierke, massively upgraded by a Forge Knight cloth goods kit, and Isidro, Frazetta Girls Conan, and Boss Fight Studios Red Sonja. Two Kit Bashed Mythic Legions figures. We have a more bulky 1.0 figure and a slender 2.0 figure. Oh, we fell over my continuity. Guts, your face. A Savage Crucible Lizard Man and a Barbarian with a Forge Knight cape. A ghost! Definitely not Kratos from Bro Toys, and a Figma from Elden Ring, both of which have Forge Knight capes. Figma Tears of the Kingdom Link and Algar by Roman Key. The Plamatea model kit of Guts in the Berserker armor, and a Mythic Legion skeleton. So yeah, if you need a Guts that actually scales perfectly with Mythic Legions, this guy right here. This helmet is also from Forge Knight. And some big boys. We have Belathu from Zezre Studios and a Medi Toys Orc. A horse from fish toys, a Mythic Legions horse, and a Figma horse, which is definitely a little small. I don't have any of the newer Figma horses, so those might be bigger. And proof that I will buy basically every Guts figure that comes out. We have two more SH Figuarts over here. They're both of Guts in the Berserker armor. The Berserker armor is awesome. It's like a medieval symbiote suit. Very cool. So have the older Figma of Golden Age Guts right here. And we also have a Figma of Guts, once again, in the Berserker armor. Side note, this Dragon Slayer actually came with this Figma, but I think that the scale is just like, it's perfect right here. I think that the Dragon Slayers that came with the SH Figuarts Guts they're a little too wide. Oh, and two more Forge Knight capes. So let's do a quick comparison of these figures since they are two iterations of the same version of the same character. So first, let's look at the Figma. He's rocking a Forge Knight cape to replace the awful one that he came with. I'm going to pull that off to get it out of the way. Oh, sorry, sir. Your hair came off. But that actually is a nice segue into the way the engineering works for this guy, for his head swaps. So we have the helmet here. And as you can see, the hair just kind of comes off. And that is where you can put the helmet. That's cool because the faceplates work for either the hair or the helmet. So let's put that hair back on. And I think that's neat because it allows the helmet to exist fully by itself so he can hold it. Now let's take a look at the helmet for the SH Figuarts. So, where did I put that? There it is. It treats the helmet more like an extra head. So you can see like his ears are part of this helmet piece. So if I were to pop the faceplate out, you can't really use this as like a prop for him to be holding his helmet because the ears are there. I mean, if you like put it in his hand and, you know, all you can really see this facing the camera, it'll be fine. Excuse me. Thank you. And yeah, I just thought that was an interesting difference between these two figures. So another interesting difference between these two is actually more of a character design update than an action figure change. So in the manga, Guts is always shown with this scabbard that has the three loops that hold the sword in place. Pretty practical design, except probably still very hard to get it out of there. Interestingly, in the movies, this design was updated a bit, so it's still got the two loops and this notch up here instead, which means that it doesn't take as much effort to get the sword out. I thought that was very cool. I don't know if that was like a Kentaro Miura consulting thing on the movies, because he was really into making all of Guts's gear kind of make sense. But yeah, I just thought that was cool. So range, versatility, basically this section is about what can you do with this figure? How far can you push it? Can you get it to do the things that you want it to do? So first, let's get him onto a horse because this version of Guts spends a lot of time on horseback, as you can see by his little spurs and underpainted boots. So as far as horses go, I've had the most luck with this Mythic Legions one, mostly because of the stirrups. The Fish Toys horse that I showed earlier also works just fine, and it is overall a better horse, but I'm just going to go with this one for now. So his legs will absolutely spread as far as you need them to get him onto a horse. No problem. Can even get his feet into the stirrups, and he looks pretty great. Oh, he looks pretty great. So let's quickly go over some articulation. We got really nice shoulder joints that allow him to cross his arms. Looks pretty good. We got great range in the torso. And he can look up and he can look down. He's got great double jointed knees that look natural when fully bent. A little toe hinge, always nice. Forgot to mention the double jointed elbows. They bend as far as you need them to. Yeah, so now let's see if he can sit in a chair. So let's test out those legs. This crotch piece kind of limits how much his legs can go together. So he's got kind of very wide sitting pose. And let's see what we can do here. This chair is a little tight. This is from the Figma, Bloodborne Figma. Her name is escaping me. That's terrible. All right. So he sits in the chair just fine. Let's can rest his arm here. And oh, here, let's grab a fist. There we go. And do the classic, like, kind of Viking Lord board king pose. Almost got it there. Yeah, pretty good, right? I love that. So for range, definitely a thumbs up. So now let's do some kit bashing so we can assess the custom potential of this figure. Now he's pretty pricey, so I can't imagine someone buying him for a base body, but maybe if you bought more than one or something like that, here's what you can do with it. So let's take some parts off. As we know, the head can pop off very easily. So can these shoulder pads. You do have a little ugly ball joint there, but you could probably hide that with some soft goods. And even with that stuff off, still looks a lot like Guts, especially with this sheath here. But guess what? It's on pegs. So you can just slide it off. Look at that. Now we've got pretty good base body, but we can take it a step further. I don't know what that thing I did with my hands was, but we can pop the torso off and we can slide off the knife belt. This torso piece can also come off very easily. And this belt is also a separate piece. And these hip plates, what are these called? They can come off too. So if we reassemble him with the bare essentials, which this belt definitely is, you'll have a huge gap if you just pop the torso piece back on. Come on, there we go. And let's pop this back on. And look at that. Now you've got a pretty nice medium armored base body. Could totally be like another Band of the Hawk soldier. But yeah, so what I'm going to do now is grab some extra parts and see what I can make with this. All right, so we have kind of transformed him into a more generic knight. Unfortunately, his gripping hands basically only allow him to hold weapons that like Figma do, where you can like take the handle out and then slide it back into the sword after sliding it into the hand. So he's a little limited on other weapons he can hold. I was surprised that this Demon Souls Figma head fit on him though, so that looks pretty good. Surprisingly customizable. So with this figure being kind of expensive, it's not like you can, reasonably army build him, but he is pretty customizable. So his rating for kit bash potential, whatever I call this section, is pretty good. So I thought a fun way to wrap these up would be to show where the toy ends up in my display cases. So we got Guts here, and let's get him into the Berserk display. Let's tuck you into your reserve spot. He sits nicely in my Guts timeline that I've got running along the outer edge here. Oh yeah, there he is with Black Swordsman Guts. That's a Figma. I forgot to show that in the scale comparison, so works out pretty well. And yeah, that wraps it up. Thank you to everyone who was so nice on the action figure subreddit. I was posting there about advice and what people want to see in reviews, so I hope I lived up to those expectations. Thank you for saying nice things about my title cards when I was posting those, and yeah, I hope you come back for my next review. Thanks.